Usually when we talk about making a diagnosis, whether it's in medicine or engineering or, even just figuring out why your car is making that weird rattling sound, right?
Right.
There is this real expectation of precision. Like, you want to actually see the mechanics of the problem.
You want to pop the hood and look at it.
Exactly. Or, you break your arm, the x-ray shows you that jagged white line against the black background, and the doctor just points to it and says, yep, there it is. That's the fracture.
Yeah, it's a binary state. The bone is broken or the bone is intact. It's clean. It's visible. And frankly, it is deeply comforting to the human brain.
It really is.
We just naturally gravitate toward things that we can categorize and place neatly into little boxes.
Right. We want the world to make sense. But then, you step away from the physical world and you step into the world of modern political theater.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly that pristine x-ray machine is just completely shattered. Like, we find ourselves looking at a diagnostic landscape that is incredibly murky.
Oh, for sure.
It's this world where figuring out what is real, what's fake, and what is something entirely in between, it just becomes an absolute maze.
Because in politics, the fracture isn't a broken bone. It's usually a broken rule.
Mm-hmm.
And determining exactly why that rule was broken, that is where things get really complicated.
So let's look at a fracture today. I want you to imagine this scene, okay? We are in the United States Capitol. It is a televised joint address to Congress by the president.
High stakes.
The stakes are as high as they get. The whole world is watching, and the room is bound by centuries of these strict, almost, aristocratic rules of decorum.
Right. The choreography is very set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in the middle of this, a 77-year-old congressman stands up. And he doesn't just object, right? He raises his cane.
Yeah, physical prop.
He literally points his cane toward the podium, shouting over the president. And it gets so intense that the sergeant-at-arms has to be called. Security physically escorts this elderly statesman out of the chamber, all while the opposing party is literally drowning him out with chants of USA, USA.
It is a striking, deeply visceral image. It completely shatters the ritual of the room.
But wait, because the x-ray gets even blurrier. Imagine that exact same congressman the very next day.
Right.
He is sitting in a formal House committee hearing. The cameras are rolling. He's leaning into his microphone and repeatedly, furiously yelling, "Shut up, shut up, shut up," at a sitting cabinet secretary.
Which is, that is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Yeah.
Because when you see back-to-back explosions of decorum like that, you are forced to ask, what are we actually looking at here?
Right.
Like, are we watching a man experiencing a genuine, raw, emotional breakdown, or are we watching a highly calculated, strategically brilliant political performance?
And that is the exact question we are tackling today. So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today is Thursday, June 4th, 2026.
It's been a wild week.
A completely wild, explosive 48 hours in Washington. We are unpacking this massive clash involving Democratic Representative Al Green from Texas, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullin, and President Donald Trump.
And our mission today is really to look past the sheer visceral drama of these viral moments. Because it's so easy to just react.
Oh, totally. You watch the clip and you just feel the anger.
Exactly. But we don't just want to react to the yelling. We want to understand the actual architecture behind it. So we're going to examine these events through a truly fascinating academic lens, the science of what researchers call performed political authenticity.
Now, just a very quick heads up before we get into the weeds here. We know that just mentioning these names, Trump, Green, Mullin, that's enough to make a lot of listeners' blood pressure spike.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about highly charged political events involving major figures from both the left and the right. But I need to be crystal clear. We are absolutely not here to play referee today.
No.
We are not taking sides. We are not endorsing any of the viewpoints, the policies, or the specific behaviors of the people involved. Our goal is to step back, put on our academic lab coats, and strictly, impartially report on the content provided in our source material. We just want to explore the communication strategies at play and what it tells us about the psychology of the electorate.
And it is an essential exercise.
Yeah.
Because if we don't look at the mechanics of these events objectively, we just become part of the audience getting swept up in the emotion of the performance.
Yeah, just become another angry comment on the internet.
Exactly. We lose our analytical edge. We become reactionary rather than observant.
Well said. So to keep that edge super sharp, we've brought together a really diverse stack of sources for you today.
Yes, we have a lot to cover.
We are pulling from on-the-ground news reports and raw video transcripts from ET Now, Ground News, and CBS.
All great sources.
And we are also analyzing a late-night cultural breakdown from Stephen Colbert, which gives us this great window into how these moments are metabolized by the broader media landscape.
How the culture actually digests it, yeah.
Right. And anchoring all of this, we are diving deep into a peer-reviewed 2026 study from the journal Media and Communication.
This study is incredible.
It really is. It's authored by researchers Simon Lubke and Enos Engelman, and it breaks down the exact formulas politicians use to construct authenticity in the digital age.
It's a perfect pairing of sources, really, because you have the raw, unfiltered data of the events themselves, the literal transcripts of the shouting matches.
The actual receipts.
Right, the receipts. And we're layering that over the high-level academic theory that explains the psychological why behind the political what.
All right, so picture the scene for this first explosive moment. It is the joint address to Congress. The tension in the room is already palpable before anyone even speaks.
Oh, it always is these days.
Right, you've got Democrats protesting, but they're doing it in a highly organized, highly visual way. It's totally choreographed. They're wearing fuchsia outfits as a block.
Just a sea of pink.
Just a sea of bright pink blazers. And they've brought props. I mean, Stephen Colbert actually joked about them bringing whiteboards and pocket constitutions.
Which is funny, but true.
Yeah. Holding up signs that say things like, save Medicaid and lies. And then when the speech actually starts, a handful of lawmakers execute a silent walkout.
Which, if you look at it from a historical perspective, that is a very traditional, very safe form of modern political protest.
It's very clean.
Very clean. It is dissent that is custom-made for television cameras. It's visually striking, it's coordinated by party leadership, and crucially, it stays safely within the bounds of congressional decorum.
Right, they aren't screaming.
Exactly. It registers disagreement without actually breaking the fundamental rules of the room. It's polite disruption.
Okay, let's unpack this. Polite disruption. I really like that phrase. But Representative Al Green took a completely different, much more explosive route.
Oh, he bypassed polite entirely.
He didn't just hold up a sign and, frown for the cameras. He shouted directly at the president while the president was actively speaking.
Right.
He raised his cane and pointed it toward the podium like a weapon. I mean, this wasn't just visual. This was acoustic. It was physical.
It's a huge escalation.
It got so chaotic that Speaker Mike Johnson actually threatened expulsion right there on the floor.
And we really have to pause here and appreciate how rare that kind of physical, prop-based disruption is in the modern era.
Yeah, when was the last time we saw that?
Well, you literally have to go back to the 19th century, to events like the caning of Charles Sumner by Preston Brooks in 1856.
Oh, wow. 1856.
Yeah, to find the archetype for physical, prop-based violence or threat in the chamber. Now, to be clear, Green obviously didn't strike anyone.
Right.
But raising a cane toward the president is a symbolic echo of a much more brutal era of congressional history.
It really is.
It fundamentally disrupts the ritual of the joint address, which, like we said, is usually this highly choreographed dance of applause lines, standing ovations, and very polite seated opposition. Green shattered that choreography.
He absolutely shattered it, and he was physically removed by the Sergeant-at-Arms while Republicans booed and chanted USA. I mean, it was pure chaos.
Complete chaos.
But I think the aftermath is just as telling as the event itself. Because he didn't wake up the next morning, issue a press release, and say, I'm sorry, my emotions got the best of me. I respect the office of the president.
No, not at all.
In an interview with CBS News reporter Nicole Killian, right after the event, Green doubled down.
He really leaned into it.
He did. He said, and I quote, "I did it from my heart. I will suffer whatever the consequences are, but I would do it again," end quote. He framed it entirely as an issue of unyielding conscience.
Yes, I did it from my heart. That specific phrasing is going to be incredibly important as we get into the academic research later.
Oh, it's interesting.
Because he is explicitly claiming that this action, however chaotic or unprecedented it appeared on TV, was a pure, unmediated expression of his true self.
Right.
He is arguing that his inner truth was just too big for the room's polite rules.
But I have to challenge that a bit. Is it really just raw, unmediated truth? Because we have to factor in the human element here.
Okay, what do you mean?
We know that right after that address, Representative Green's close friend and colleague, former Houston mayor and recently elected Congressman Sylvester Turner, passed away unexpectedly.
Yes, that is crucial context.
Green was with him that night. He was completely devastated. He told reporters he literally fell to his knees when he heard the news.
It's awful.
So, when you factor in that immense, crushing personal grief, how do we separate an isolated emotional break from a calculated political strategy? Couldn't this just be a man who was pushed completely past his breaking point?
That is the absolute crux of the debate.
Mm.
And in the realm of political communication, the answer is often that it was both simultaneously.
Really, both.
Yes, a genuine emotional state, like the deep grief, the exhaustion, and frankly, the righteous anger Green was undoubtedly feeling, that can serve as the authentic fuel for a highly effective political performance.
Ah, I see.
The grief isn't fake. The anger isn't fake. But the choice to direct that emotion at the president on national television, the choice to raise the cane, the choice to refuse to back down in the press, that is where the emotion enters the realm of strategy.
Right.
The best performances draw on real reservoirs of feeling.
That makes total sense. So the emotion is the raw material, but the delivery mechanism is the strategy.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the very next day, June 3, 2026. If the pressure cooker was whistling during the joint address, it completely blew its lid during this House Committee on Homeland Security hearing.
Oh, absolutely. And committee hearings are entirely different beasts than joint addresses.
Yeah, usually they're pretty boring.
Right. Joint addresses are theater, but committee hearings are supposed to be the boiler room of governance. They're typically these dry procedural affairs focused on budgets, jurisdictions, and the minutia of the law.
Supposed to be. But this one detonated.
It did.
We have the transcript of the exchange, and it is wild. So Green has the floor. He's utilizing his allotted time to talk about peaceful protests and the nature of racism. He says, quote, "Racists take offense at peaceful protests. A racist, Mr. Secretary, would do what happened to Ruby," end quote. And right there, he gets cut off.
Just completely interrupted.
Yeah, Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen immediately jumps in, completely interrupting a sitting congressman's time, and demands, "Are you calling me a racist?"
And right out of the gate, the procedural norms of the hearing are breached.
Right.
The witness, who is a cabinet secretary, is directly challenging and interrupting the member of Congress during the member's strictly allotted time.
Which you're just not supposed to do.
No, that simply isn't how parliamentary procedure is designed to work.
Hmm.
The witness is there to answer, not to interrogate.
And because that rule is broken, the whole thing just spirals instantly. Green tries to do the standard congressional move to get things back on track. He looks to the committee chair and says, "Reclaiming my time. Ask him to shut up." But Mullen doesn't stop. He talks right over him. He says, "That's a pretty..." And Green just unleashes.
He really does.
He leans in and yells, "Shut up, shut up. It's my time."
And just think about the language there, the repetition of "shut up." This is not parliamentary language.
No, it's not.
We aren't hearing, "I ask the gentleman to yield," or "the witness is out of order." It is the language of a schoolyard argument or a fight at a bar.
Totally.
It is deeply colloquial, intensely aggressive, and it completely derails the fundamental purpose of the hearing. The chairman, Andrew Garbarino, tries desperately to intervene. He's banging the gavel. He's asking members to focus on the subject matter and stop the personal attacks, but the train has completely left the station.
Because Mullen refuses to yield too. Like, the chairman is banging the gavel, but Mullen insists he will not let anyone call him a racist on the permanent record. He invokes his Cherokee heritage to defend himself against the implication. And then he takes a deeply personal, incredibly brutal jab at Green.
It was so personal.
He leans into the microphone and points out that Green had recently lost his Democratic primary, saying, quote, "Evidently his constituents heard enough of him because they voted him out."
That is a masterclass in rhetorical counterattack.
It's ruthless.
It is. Mullen isn't just defending his own character, right? He is actively attempting to strip Green of his political legitimacy in that room.
Wow. Yeah.
Essentially saying, look, you don't even have the backing of your own voters anymore. You are a lame duck. Therefore, your attacks on me are weightless. It's a strategy designed to humiliate, not just deflect.
It's totally ruthless. But if we want to really understand this, we can't look at this one hearing in a vacuum, right? There is a mountain of context that makes this powder keg make sense.
Oh, a ton of context.
First, let's look at Mullen's state of mind. He was already under massive, massive pressure. Just the day before, he was sitting in a Senate Appropriations Subcommittee hearing where Senate Democrats absolutely hammered him.
Yes. The Ground News report detailed that extensively. The Democrats were tearing into him over a highly controversial proposal to withdraw Border Patrol officers from airports located in sanctuary cities.
Right.
They were calling the plan insane. They were accusing the Department of Homeland Security of ignoring nearly 100 standing court orders and mishandling billions of dollars in spending.
So Mullen is walking into this House hearing on June 3rd already highly defensive.
Exactly.
He's already feeling like he is under siege from the left. He's bruised from the day before.
And then you have to add the specific, highly volatile personal history between Mullen and Green.
Oh man, the bad blood here is legendary. This was definitely not their first rodeo. The ET Now report reminded us that during a previous State of the Union address, Green brought a massive protest sign into the chamber that read, "Black people aren't apes." This was a direct protest against a social media post from President Trump's account regarding the Obamas. And Mullen, who was a Republican member of the House at the time, was so infuriated by the sign that he actually walked across several rows of seats in the middle of the chamber to try and physically rip the sign out of Green's hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Mullen never apologized for that.
Okay. Oh.
He later defended his actions by saying there was a certain level of decorum expected in the chamber, and he bluntly stated to reporters that he simply, quote, cannot stand Al Green.
Wow.
So when these two men lock eyes in that committee room, there's a deep reservoir of personal animosity, historical conflict, and prior physical confrontation already sitting right there on the table between them.
So step back and look at the picture we've painted here. We see two seasoned politicians, men who have been in Washington for years, who know exactly how the game is played, who know the rules backward and forward, and yet they are breaking every single rule of congressional decorum on live television. To understand why this is happening and why this kind of explosive confrontation is rapidly becoming the new normal in our politics, we really need to turn to the academics.
We do.
We need to look at that 2026 study by Simon Lubke and Ian Essengelman in the journal Media and Communication.
This study is incredibly illuminating because it forces a complete paradigm shift in how we view political communication.
How so?
Well, it forces us to stop looking at these outbursts purely as emotional failures or, unfortunate breakdowns in civility or symptoms of a broken system. Instead, it asks us to look at them as deliberate, strategic, highly effective acts of communication.
The core concept they introduce is performed political authenticity. And we need to be really precise here because I think a lot of people misunderstand this.
They do, yeah.
When the average voter hears the word authentic, they usually just think honest, like someone telling the truth about what happened. But that's not how the academics define it, is it?
Not at all. It's much more nuanced than that. In the realm of political science and communication theory, authenticity is not merely a synonym for honesty or truth-telling.
Okay.
It is defined as the degree to which a politician appears to be true to themselves.
True to themselves.
Right. It's about projecting an image of a person who is entirely unaffected by outside influences. It's the illusion, or the reality, that the politician isn't being puppeted by lobbyists or restrained by focus groups or muzzled by party leadership. It's the impression that every action and every word is grounded entirely in their own deep-seated, unwavering personal convictions.
And the absolute key word in that entire concept is performed.
Precisely. Authenticity in this context is a construct. It is a specific type of performance that aims to construct an authentic image for the audience.
Which is wild to think about.
It is the grand paradox of modern political communication. Because to be perceived as authentic by millions of voters through the barrier of a television screen or a smartphone, you cannot simply be authentic.
Right, they can't actually see the real you.
Exactly. You have to actively, strategically perform authenticity. You have to translate your internal reality into an external language that the audience can instantly recognize and digest.
Okay, let's really dig into how they do that because this is where the theory gets incredibly tangible. The study breaks down this performance of authenticity into 4 distinct dimensions.
Yes.
Let's walk through them one by one because I'm telling you, once you see these dimensions, you will never watch a political ad or a congressional hearing the same way again.
The first dimension the researchers identified is consistency.
Consistency.
Yes. This is the foundational idea that a politician remains stable in their views, their actions, their voting record, and even their physical appearance across time and across different contexts. It is the strategy of absolute coherence.
Okay, let's give the listener a concrete example of that. How does a politician perform consistency in a way we'd recognize?
So the study actually points to former German Chancellor Angela Merkel as a prime example of visual and behavioral consistency.
Oh, that makes sense.
Think about how she presented herself for over a decade. She famously wore very similar, almost identical formal attire, that iconic, brightly colored blazer over dark trousers.
Yeah, always the blazer.
Always. And she used recurring, highly identifiable physical gestures, most notably her signature hand rhombus.
Right.
By visually remaining exactly the same, year after year, crisis after crisis, she projected a psychological image of absolute political stability, reliability, and competence.
It's the visual equivalent of a rock in a storm. In a U.S. context, I imagine this looks like a politician who relentlessly repeats the exact same party slogans, who never wavers from the official platform, who gives the exact same stump speech in Ohio that they give in Florida.
Yes, exactly. And the psychology behind why this works is rooted in cognitive ease.
Cognitive
Yeah,
ease?
human beings like predictability. When a politician is consistent, they're easy to understand. We don't have to expend mental energy trying to figure out what they stand for today.
That's true.
And the study found that this is actually the most common tactic by far. In their analysis of social media posts across various platforms, they found that the consistency dimension was used a staggering 62.6% of the time.
Wow. Over 60%.
Yeah.
It's the safe play. It's the politician saying, you can trust me because I am who I say I am, and I never, ever change.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. What is dimension number 2?
The second dimension is ordinariness.
Ordinariness.
This is the carefully crafted performance of appearing down to earth. It is the attempt to prove to the voter that despite holding immense power, the politician is just a regular citizen who happens to hold public office.
Oh, this is a classic. This is the politician in the plaid shirt eating a deep-fried corn dog at the Iowa State Fair, trying to look like they actually enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it goes deeper than just eating junk food on camera. It includes deliberate displays of minor, relatable imperfection.
Like what?
It's the politician admitting to running late because of traffic, or posting a self-deprecating photo where they spilled coffee on their tie right before a big meeting.
Oh, interesting.
The researchers note that populist politicians rely on this dimension heavily.
Wait, why populist specifically? What is the psychological hook there?
Well, populism thrives on an us versus them dichotomy. It's the pure, ordinary people against the corrupt, out-of-touch elite.
Right.
So figures like Viktor Orban in Hungary or Donald Trump in the U.S. cultivate this ordinariness by making a spectacle of eating fast food or deliberately using very plain, non-academic, sometimes grammatically imperfect language.
Oh, that is so calculated.
It is. They're sending a very clear psychological signal. They're saying, I am one of you. I am not part of the polished, elite, Ivy League establishment that looks down on you. And this dimension appeared in about 26% of the analyzed social media posts.
It's fascinating how powerful a spilled cup of coffee can be if you post it at the exactly right time.
Very powerful.
All right, what about dimension number 3?
Dimension 3 is intimacy. This involves the strategic revelation of private, deeply personal details that are traditionally kept strictly out of the public eye.
So we're talking about an Instagram feed that looks less like a campaign page and more like a lifestyle influencer's account. Like golden retrievers, family barbecues, anniversary posts.
Right. It's sharing sentimental childhood stories, talking openly about the struggles of being a parent, or literally showing the audience the inside of the politician's living room or kitchen.
Right, right.
The psychological goal here is to create a parasocial bond with the voter.
A parasocial bond, meaning the voter feels like they are actual friends with the politician, even though it's a completely one-way street.
Precisely. It humanizes the institution.
Yeah.
It makes the politician feel less like a suit in Washington and more like a neighbor.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that the study found this was the least common dimension by a wide margin. It only showed up in 4.1% of the posts they analyzed.
Only 4.1%. Wait, why so low? If building a bond with voters is so important, why wouldn't they use intimacy all the time?
Because it is an incredibly delicate balance, and the risk of backfiring is enormous.
Oh.
If a politician shares too much, or if the intimacy feels forced or emotionally manipulative, voters get what we colloquially call the ick.
Yeah.
It can seem deeply unprofessional, or worse, desperate. So politicians use it very sparingly.
That makes total sense. Like, you want to seem relatable, but you still want them to trust you with the nuclear codes. You can't overshare.
Exactly.
Okay, that brings us to the 4th dimension. And here is where it gets really interesting, because this is the one that really acts as the skeleton key for understanding the entire Al Green and Mark Wayne Mullen situation.
Yes. The 4th dimension is immediacy.
And how do Lopke and Engelman define immediacy in their research? Because this seems to be the most volatile of the 4.
It is entirely volatile. Immediacy is defined as the performance of spontaneous action. It is the raw, unfiltered, real-time translation of the politician's inner self to the outside world.
Oh.
Right. It manifests publicly through displays of strong, raw emotions, anger, tears, outrage. It shows up as blatant impoliteness, as deliberate rule-breaking, and as the use of politically incorrect or highly aggressive language.
It's the total rejection of the script.
Exactly. The underlying logic that makes immediacy so effective is the voter's assumption that a polished script is inherently dishonest.
Oh, wow.
Therefore, if a politician is behaving impolitely or explosively or seemingly out of control, the voter subconsciously assumes they must be telling the truth.
Because they couldn't possibly have planned it.
Right, because they are clearly too overwhelmed by their genuine, passionate feelings to rely on a focus-grouped, carefully constructed PR strategy.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the "he tells it like it is" phenomenon.
Yes.
And what's wild is that the study found this dimension was only used 12.7% of the time in the social media posts they analyzed. It is rare.
Very rare.
Most politicians, as we saw with that 62% statistic, play it safe with consistency. But when we look at Representative Green and Secretary Mullen over those 48 hours in June, they are playing it safe. They aren't relying on consistency or ordinariness. They are diving headfirst at absolute top speed into immediacy.
Which is why we really need to examine how they are weaponizing immediacy in the viral age. If we apply this academic framework directly to Representative Al Green, his actions suddenly look less like a loss of control and more like a highly calibrated broadcast.
Let's trace it. Green raises a cane. He screams at the president in the middle of a highly formalized, historically quiet joint address. The next day, he tells a cabinet secretary to shut up repeatedly in a congressional hearing. Through the academic lens of immediacy, what is he actually communicating to the people watching?
Well, by loudly and publicly breaking the deeply ingrained historical rules of congressional decorum, Green is sending a massive coded signal to his specific audience. He is communicating that his convictions, his deep-seated anger over issues of racism, his visceral opposition to the president's agenda, they are so incredibly deep and so entirely genuine that he physically cannot contain them within the normal boundaries of behavior.
Wow.
He is telling his supporters that the polite, stuffy rules of Washington are simply insufficient to hold the massive truth he feels he has an obligation to deliver.
He is essentially saying, look, my passion is so authentic, I am willing to be thrown out of the room by security just to make you hear it.
Yes, the sheer impoliteness is the guarantee of authenticity in the eyes of his supporters. If he were being polite, he wouldn't be authentic.
And the fascinating thing is that Secretary Mullen is playing the exact same game, utilizing the exact same dimension of authenticity just from the other side of the political aisle.
Absolutely. Think about Mullen's actions in that committee room. When he interrupts a sitting congressman, when he completely ignores the chairman banging the gavel and pleading for order, and when he fires back with a deeply personal, brutal insult about losing his primary election.
Right.
Mullen is performing his own distinct brand of right-wing immediacy.
He is signaling to his base. He's saying, I am a tough, unvarnished outsider. I am not going to sit here in this fancy chair and take the typical Washington rhetorical abuse like a polished, weak politician.
Exactly.
I'm going to fight back, rules be damned. He is performing strength through the vehicle of impoliteness.
And this brings up a crucial point about the environment in which these performances take place. We have to understand where these moments are ultimately designed to live.
What do you mean?
Well, yes, they physically happen in wood-paneled committee rooms in Washington, D.C., but they are not performed for the people in that room. They're designed entirely to be consumed on the internet.
Oh, for sure.
And the Lewicki and Engelman study found something really critical about the algorithmic mechanics of political authenticity on different platforms.
What did they find? Because we know different platforms have totally different personalities.
They found that these authenticity performances, particularly the highly visual, highly emotional dimensions like immediacy and ordinariness, they are far more prevalent on platforms like Instagram and Facebook than they are on text-based platforms like Twitter or X.
Wait, why is that, though? Dig into the mechanics for us. Because conventional wisdom says Twitter is where all the vicious political fighting happens. Why would immediacy thrive on Instagram?
It comes down to how the algorithms are coded and what human psychology they are trying to exploit.
Okay.
Twitter is traditionally text-heavy. It is often utilized as a platform for political insiders, journalists, and policy wonks to argue the nuances of legislation or comment on breaking news events.
Right, it's a lot of reading.
It's argumentative, but it's often intellectualized. Instagram and Facebook, however, are highly visual, highly personalized, and their algorithms are explicitly driven by emotional arousal.
Emotional arousal, meaning the code actively looks for content that makes our heart rate spike.
Exactly. The algorithm tracks what makes you stop scrolling. And human beings are biologically hardwired to stop and stare at raw emotion. We stop for anger, we stop for tears, we stop for a fight.
We can't look away from a car crash.
Right. The modern political landscape, filtered through these algorithms, simply does not reward a dry, 40-minute, deeply nuanced policy debate on C-SPAN. That content gets buried. What the algorithm rewards and forcefully pushes to the top of millions of feeds is a 15-second, highly visual, emotionally explosive video clip.
Yeah.
A high-definition clip of an elderly congressman raising a cane at the president or two grown men furiously yelling "shut up" at each other. That is absolute algorithmic gold. It triggers the arousal response. It is tailor-made for viral consumption.
So if the algorithm demands fireworks, the politicians supply the fireworks. But I have to play devil's advocate here because we keep circling back to this idea of performance.
Okay, go ahead.
If we know that Green just lost his primary, I mean, his political career is functionally over, and we know he just lost a dear friend, how can we sit here and definitively say this is a calculated performance for an algorithm? Couldn't this truly just be the actions of a grieving, frustrated, exhausted man who literally has nothing left to lose? Why does it have to be a strategy?
Because the two concepts are not mutually exclusive. And that is the ultimate mind-bending paradox of political authenticity. It is the reason this subject is so complex.
How so?
The most effective, resonant performances of authenticity are the ones that are deeply, inextricably rooted in real emotion. A performance doesn't have to be a fabrication.
It's like method acting. A great actor doesn't just pretend to cry. They tap into a real memory of real grief to produce genuine tears for the camera.
Precisely. Apply that to Green. His lack of political capital, the fact that he lost his primary and is on his way out the door, that actually frees him to be radically authentic.
Oh, wow.
When you are a politician climbing the ladder, you are chained to the consistency dimension. You have to worry about alienating moderate voters in the next election. You have to toe the party line.
Right.
Green no longer has those chains. The real grief over his friend, the real frustration with his political defeat, and his newfound political freedom all fuse together. The result is a pure, unadulterated expression of immediacy.
Yeah.
He genuinely feels the anger, but he also knows, whether intuitively from decades in politics or through conscious strategy, that expressing that anger loudly and disruptively is his final, most powerful lever of influence.
That is profound. The loss of his career is exactly what allows him to achieve peak authenticity. He's leaning into the skid.
He is.
But as we transition to this next crucial piece of the puzzle, we have to acknowledge a massive, glaring structural caveat to who actually gets to lean into that skid. And that brings us to the gender double-bind in authenticity.
This is arguably where the Lubke and Engelman study provides its most vital and perhaps its most troubling data. Because we've established that immediacy, yelling, breaking rules, displaying raw anger is a highly effective tool for generating attention.
Right.
But that tool is not equally available to all politicians. The barrier to entry is deeply gendered.
The researchers didn't just look at abstract theory here. They analyzed a massive data set from the 2021 German federal election to prove this. Break down the candidates they studied for us.
They conducted a comprehensive content analysis of the social media output of the three primary candidates running to succeed Angela Merkel as Chancellor of Germany.
Okay.
You had two men, Olaf Scholz, representing the center-left SPD, and Armin Laschet, representing the conservative CDU. And you had one woman, Annalena Baerbock, representing the Green Party.
So 2 men, 1 woman, all vying for the highest office. What did the data reveal about how they constructed their authenticity online?
The differences were not just noticeable. They were statistically profound. The study revealed that the male candidates, Scholz and Laschet, relied overwhelmingly on the consistency dimension.
The safe one.
The safe one. They flooded their feeds with content that presented themselves as stable, reliable, predictable representatives of their respective parties' platforms. They played the traditional, safe game of projecting unwavering competence.
And what about the female candidate, Annalena Baerbock?
Baerbock's strategy was entirely different. The data shows she relied significantly more on immediacy, posting spontaneous, highly emotional, reactive content and ordinariness, repeatedly presenting herself as a down-to-earth person, highlighting her life outside of politics.
Okay, stop right there. Why the massive difference? If immediacy is so powerful at grabbing attention, why wouldn't the men use it more? Or conversely, if consistency is the safe bet that makes you look like a stable chancellor, why wouldn't the woman just stick to consistency?
The researchers attribute this divergence to what is known in political psychology and sociology as the double-bind theory for female leaders.
The double bind.
Right. To understand it, you have to understand that society, and by extension the voting electorate, holds deep-seated, often subconscious, stereotypical expectations about gender roles.
Right.
Men are traditionally expected and rewarded for exhibiting agentic traits, meaning they were assertive, competitive, dominant, and decisive.
Okay.
Women, on the other hand, are traditionally expected to exhibit communal traits, meaning they are friendly, emotional, unselfish, and collaborative.
So when a female politician steps into the arena and wants to prove she has the strength to be the chancellor, when she wants to project those agentic traits, she walks right into a trap.
Exactly. It is a psychological trap set by the electorate. If a female politician acts tough, highly assertive, and uncompromising, if she leans too hard into consistency and agentic behavior, voters frequently penalize her for violating traditional gender norms.
They call her unlikable.
They deem her unlikable, shrill, cold, or overly aggressive. But if she acts soft, friendly, and communal, voters penalize her from the other direction. They deem her incompetent, weak, or lacking the necessary toughness for the job.
Wow.
She is caught in a double bind where she's either too tough to be liked or too soft to lead.
It's like being forced to walk a tightrope in a Category 5 hurricane. Every single step, every single tweet, every single facial expression is microanalyzed by the media and the voters to see if she's leaning an inch too far into being too tough or too soft.
Exactly.
So Baerbock had to use immediacy and ordinariness to constantly prove she was human and relatable, to soften her image enough to be liked while trying to remain competent.
Precisely. Her performance of authenticity had to be incredibly carefully calibrated, constantly balancing strength with approachability in a way that Schultz and Lachette simply did not have to worry about.
Now take that theory and apply it back to our U.S. examples. Look at Al Green and Mark Wayne Mullen. As two men, they possess a massively wider latitude to use aggressive, explosive immediacy.
Oh, absolutely.
They can yell "shut up" repeatedly. They can hurl deeply personal insults about primary elections. They can raise a cane at the President of the United States. And while it might cause a temporary media scandal, it does not fundamentally destroy their political viability.
For a lot of voters, it enhances it.
Right. Their base reads that aggression not as instability, but as passion, toughness, and rugged authenticity.
Yes. Men can weaponize anger as a proxy for authenticity. But that same weapon is inherently riskier and often politically fatal for female politicians.
Totally.
I mean, just imagine for a moment if a female cabinet secretary had sat in that hearing room and repeatedly, aggressively yelled shut up at a male congressman.
Oh, the media narrative would be entirely different. The chyrons wouldn't be about a fiery clash. They would be questioning her emotional stability, her temperament, her ability to handle pressure.
Exactly.
The focus would be on her loss of control rather than her authentic passion.
It highlights a deep flaw in how we consume political media. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we demand authenticity, but we judge the performance of it through heavily biased lenses.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. If we step back and look at the whole board, the explosive clashes, the algorithmic rewards, the psychological double binds, what does this mean for us as voters? Because sitting here in 2026, it feels like this trend of performative outrage is only accelerating.
It is accelerating because the incentives are perfectly aligned to encourage it. Voters across the globe are increasingly demanding authentic politicians.
Yeah.
They are exhausted by the polished, focus-grouped, robotic candidates who speak entirely in sanitized talking points. They want leaders who bleed, who get angry, who seem like real human beings.
And on the surface, that sounds like a healthy democratic impulse. We want real people representing us.
It sounds wonderful in theory. But in practice, It creates a deeply dangerous incentive structure for our entire political system. Because if voters collectively decide that the best, most reliable proof of a politician's authenticity is their willingness to break the rules, to be relentlessly impolite, to abandon decorum, and to act on raw, unfiltered emotion.
Then immediacy becomes the ultimate political currency.
Yes.
And if immediacy is the easiest, fastest way to win the algorithm's attention and prove to your base that you are real, then the very nature of our politics shifts.
It
It
does.
inevitably becomes more explosive, more deeply personal, more focused on engineering viral clashes for Instagram, and drastically less focused on actual, boring, complex, and necessary policy debates.
We stop incentivizing the hard work of governance, the compromises, the reading of bills, the quiet committee work, and we start exclusively incentivizing the fireworks.
Yeah.
We train our politicians to behave like reality television stars because we reward them with our absolute attention and our votes when they deliver the drama.
That is a genuinely chilling thought, and it brings us right to our conclusion. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to speak directly to you, the listener.
Yeah.
I want you to think about your own media diet this week. Think about the last time you were scrolling on your phone and you watched a viral clip of a politician absolutely destroying an opponent, or clapping back at a reporter, or completely breaking the rules of decorum.
It happens every day.
It does. When you watched that video and you felt that little spike of adrenaline, were you actually being informed about a piece of legislation that will affect your life? Or were you simply consuming a highly produced, highly effective, algorithmic performance of immediacy?
It is crucial to ask yourself how those moments shape your subconscious perception. When a politician yells, does it make you trust them more? Does it make you think they are more real than the politician who spoke quietly about tax policy?
Such a good point.
And perhaps more importantly, how does this dynamic bleed out of the political sphere and into your daily life? How does this obsession with loud, explosive authenticity shape who you trust in your own workplace?
Oh, wow.
Do you confuse the loudest, most disruptive, most argumentative voice in the meeting with the most honest one?
That is such an incredible point. It literally rewires how we evaluate credibility in everyone around us, not just people in Washington.
Which raises an important question, and it's the final thought I want to leave you to mull over today. We constantly demand that our leaders be authentic and real with us. It is the modern voter's rallying cry.
Right.
But if our metric for authenticity has devolved into simply measuring who is willing to be the most impolite, the most spontaneous, and the most rule-breaking on camera,
Yeah.
well, are we actually electing better, more capable leaders, or have we just figured out an incredibly efficient way to elect better reality TV stars?
And with that X-ray machine permanently broken, it is entirely up to us to navigate these muddy waters. It takes work to see past the performance. If this deep dive gave you a new perspective on the political theater we all watch play out every single day, don't keep it to yourself. Share this audio with that one friend who is always sending you those viral political clash clips. Give them the academic lens. Give them the vocabulary to understand what they are actually watching. And hit the follow button on your app right now so you never miss a dive into the unseen forces shaping our world. Until next time, keep questioning what you see.